Tony Sargent in Tay Ninh, South Vietnam, John Lawrence in New York, and Robert Shackney in New York.
Good evening. The Senate battle over the nomination of Abe Fortas as Chief Justice of the United States spilled over into the election campaign today. In New Jersey, Vice President Humphrey accused Richard Nixon of having made a deal with South Carolina Senator Strom Thurmond to block confirmation. It would take only a word from Nixon, Humphrey charged, and Fortas would be confirmed. In Washington, where the Senate hearing reopened today, Roger Mudd talked with Thurmond.
Senator, Vice President Humphrey today called Richard Nixon a fearless fosdick and then went on to say that Nixon had made a deal with you to block the nomination of Abe Fortas. Would you comment on that claim?
Well, it's false. And Mr. Humphrey knows it's false. I opposed Mr. Fortas' nomination to be Associate Justice 3 years ago. I'm unalterably opposed to his confirmation as Chief Justice, and I would not be deterred by Mr. Nixon in this matter or anyone else. He has made no request to me about this matter, and I have made no request of him.
Have you ever discussed the Fortas nomination with Mr. Nixon?
No, I have not.
Thurmond made his comments just before the Judiciary Committee resumed its afternoon hearing on the Fortas nomination. The witness, a Los Angeles police sergeant, was prepared to show the committee several pornographic films in an attempt to prove Thurmond's charge that Fortas's vote in a series of Supreme Court obscenity cases had helped start a boom on the filth market. This morning, the surprise witness was the dean of the American University Law School, B.J. Tenery, who testified Fortas was paid $15,000 this year for teaching a one-night-a-week summer seminar for 17 law students. Tenery said after the justice agreed to teach the course, he got Fortas's former law partner, Paul Porter, to raise $30,000 for Fortas's salaries and the students' fees. Tenery said the contributors were 5 wealthy businessmen, including Marcus Lazarus, with whom Fortas had once served on the board of the Federated Department Stores.
What is the highest fee you had previously paid to a summer lecturer?
Oh, to a summer lecture, I would say somewhere around $2,500 normally.
Thank you very much. Was it a good...
The program was very... Business-wise, no. But academically, this was an extraordinary experience, and we have 17 people going out in the world that will remember this and be rewarded by it for the rest of their lives.
While Dean Tenery stoutly defended the arrangement with Fortas, Senator Thurmond attacked it, saying the 5 donors who had had no previous connection with the school had exhibited an extraordinary burst of spontaneous generosity. Democrat Philip Hart of Michigan said he doubts the testimony will change any votes. The Judiciary Committee, which today received Fortas's respectful refusal to reappear, is scheduled to vote Tuesday morning. Roger Mudd, CBS News, Washington.
When your eyes feel tired and sore, they usually look red, too. If you use plain eye drops or an eye wash, they feel better. But they still look red and tired and sore, unless you use Visine. Visine soothes your eyes. And because of tetrahydrozoline, which only Visine has, it gets the red out, too. It works in 60 seconds. Visine, the modern eye drop that gets the red out.
January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. After sitting all winter, who isn't out of shape for summer? When you get those summer aches and pains, use Bengay. Rub it in. In goes the warmth and comfort deep down into overworked muscles and joints. If you're out of shape, don't be out of Bengay. Ointment or lotion helps you have fun.
Vice President Humphrey made his attack on Nixon over the Fortas matter while talking with reporters on a New Jersey beach. David Shoemaker reports.
It used to be kissing babies. Now candidates like to have their pictures taken walking alone on the beach. Apparently, it is intended to show the subject at peace with himself and in tune with the tides. The photographers out of the way, Humphrey set out on a walking news conference, reminiscent of those marathon sessions Lyndon Johnson used to have on the back lawn of the White House. Reporters struggled through the sand trying to keep up and hear over the roar of the surf. Hours later, they were still comparing notes to figure out what the vice president said. Mostly, he said his campaign was going well.
We got around the country. We're finally able to get Mr. Nixon off from his program of platitudes and generous generalizations. Get him down to discuss his attitude on foreign policy.
Are you pleased that Governor Agnew decided that you weren't really soft on communism?
But I don't think he ever believed it in the first place. I think he just got a hold of one of Mr. Nixon's old speeches.
What it boils down to, said Humphrey, is that Richard Nixon, with his attacks on the Supreme Court, is acting like fearless Fosdick, and Spiro Agnew is acting like Richard Nixon. And it leaves Humphrey with this outlook.
But anything that's worthwhile doesn't come very easy. I just don't believe the United States is ready to elect Richard Nixon president of the United States, and I don't think they're going to elect George Wallace. Now there's one left over.
Humphrey has been running hard all week without making noticeable progress. He lost this race to an out-of-condition reporter. David Shoemaker, CBS News, Island Beach, New Jersey.
Richard Nixon also made a sharp attack on his rival today. In Indianapolis, he issued a statement calling Humphrey tragically naive about crime. The war on poverty, Nixon said, is no substitute for a war on crime. Nixon added, doubling the conviction rate in this country would do far more to cure crime than quadrupling the funds for Mr. Humphrey's war on poverty. Nixon said, however, the nation should not diminish efforts to eliminate poverty. In Cincinnati, the third-party presidential candidate, George Wallace, attacked both Humphrey and Nixon on the issue of law and order. Both national parties created the climate for anarchy, Wallace said, and if so much money hadn't been spent on foreign aid, the problems of the cities could have been solved. The Federal Communications Commission said today it has received hundreds of complaints about television coverage in Chicago during the Democratic Convention, and it asked the three major networks to examine and comment on these complaints within 20 days. The FCC said the complaints basically charged that television did not fairly present the issues of events both outside and inside the convention. Executives of the networks and some leading newspapers and news magazines today asked President Johnson's Commission on Violence to investigate Chicago police actions. They asked that what they called police violence aimed at repressing free news coverage be included in the Commission's previously announced investigation of the disorders during the convention.
How many pain relievers do you know of that give you a second dose of pain reliever during the night while you sleep? Measurin does, the first pain reliever with a built-in second dose. Measurin contains a double dose of aspirin in timed release form, so you take it once every 8 hours instead of every 4. Gives maximum nighttime pain relief. Helps you wake without stiffness. That's timed release Measurin, the convenient pain reliever with a built-in second dose for a long-lasting pain relief.
When you have acid indigestion, every second counts. So count on instant-acting Phillips tablets. Phillips tablets go to work in seconds. With one of the fastest stomach settlers ever discovered, each small Phillips tablet neutralizes more excess stomach acid than the leading antacid tablet that comes in a roll. So for fast relief from acid-upset stomach, when every second counts, count on instant-acting Phillips tablets.
The U.S. command in Saigon said today that enemy forces have lost at least 250 men in 2 days of fighting near the provincial capital of Tainan. More than 60 Viet Cong guerrillas died today in an attack on an American position 2 miles from the city. American casualties were described as light. Tonight we have a film report from CBS newsman Tony Sargent on one of the earlier battles in the Tainan area.
Helicopter gunships are attempting to blast an enemy unit out of this woods just on the outskirts of the city of Tainan.
The gunships make repeated passes over the woods, their guns sending thousands of rounds into an area the enemy has occupied all day. Later, jets make low-level bombing runs over the woods. South Vietnamese reinforcements arrive. Their officers plan an assault on the enemy position. The South Vietnamese soldiers in this operation are not regular army men. They are local militiamen attempting to defend their own city, a sort of constantly mobilized National Guard. The South Vietnamese set up their command post in a newly built marketplace. It lies across a rice paddy from the woods occupied by the enemy. Let's fire into the woods. Troops advance across the rice paddy. The enemy has had several hours to dig in. Those not killed by the barrage and bombs fight back. Enemy machine guns rake the rice paddy. Bullets splatter the surface. Some find their mark. The enemy's position remains too strong for this assault. The South Vietnamese retreat. In this film by CBS News cameraman Bo Thompson, the South Vietnamese carry their wounded to the safety of rear positions. They abandon their command post and fall back closer to the city itself. Tony Sargent, CBS News, Tay Nim.
The Pentagon disclosed tonight that American Major General Keith Ware, a Medal of Honor winner and commander of the U.S. Army 1st Division, was killed in Vietnam today when his helicopter crashed near Lan Ninh. The Defense Department said today that 30,000 Navy reservists who enlisted for 2 years of active duty will be released ahead of time to save $40 million. They will go back to civilian life between October 1st and the end of December. Sailors involved in the Vietnam War are not affected. Some Japanese correspondents were permitted to attend a news conference in North Korea yesterday, at which Captain Lloyd Bucher and his Pueblo crewmen were presented. Today in Tokyo, they quoted Bucher as saying he and his men may be executed or sentenced to life imprisonment unless North Korea receives a U.S. apology for the Pueblo's alleged spying activities. The Japanese also reported that the Pueblo crewmen are being housed adequately, that they appear in good health, but that they long to return home.
Boy, I'm as hungry as a bear. I could eat a...
Would you settle for fried chicken and Hungry Jack biscuits?
Big Hungry Jack Flaky Biscuits for a healthy size appetite. Look for Big Hungry Jack Flaky Biscuits or new butter tasting biscuits in the dairy case.
There's a Hungry Jack in every family. Feed 'em good with Hungry Jack. Hungry Jack!
From Pillsbury.
And that's not all, folks. Danish sweet rolls.
Choose from 3 Danish favorites: cinnamon, caramel, orange. In the dairy case. Pillsbury Poppin' Fresh Dough makes the flakiest sweet rolls. These are orange Danish with creamy icing. Tender, flaky. Poppin' Fresh Dough says fresh, home-baked Danish rolls.
And Pillsbury says it best.
New York City's teachers union went on strike today for the second time this week in a renewed dispute over local school control. The union wants the city to fire a district governing board elected in a Negro and Puerto Rican slum area, a board which had refused to reinstate 10 white teachers cleared of charges they were sabotaging decentralization. The earlier 2-day walkout ended when it appeared the dispute had been settled. Tonight, in the final part of our series on police, CBS News correspondent John Lawrence reports on the changing concept of a policeman's role in a changing society.
Johnson. Here. Hinton. Here. Moritz. Here. Sparrow. Here.
What is a policeman? By definition, he is a public servant, a guardian of the law-abiding citizen against the lawless, sworn to maintain order and enforce the law. For that purpose, he is armed with a gun and a nightstick and the power of arrest. He is also an arbitrator in family quarrels, a hero to people in distress, a guide to lost strangers, and an idol to small children. Most policemen see themselves that way. Among them, Joseph Lefevre of Chicago's Fraternal Order of Police.
Our job is simple. We have to enforce the law equally and fairly for everyone. We don't relish the fact that people might be sniping at us, but we're going to return fire with fire. Now, we don't get any sadistic pleasure of shooting at anyone, as somebody might like you to believe. We're human, we have families, and we know they have. We know their problems. We didn't create the civil rights problem. This has been going on for 100 years. The policeman is the enforcer, and therefore we're in the unhappy middle. But we'll return the fire. I just pray to God that sensible people will take over here, and the leaders of the communities, of all communities, will talk to their people. You must have law enforcement or you'll have complete anarchy.
But to many militants, the old definitions are no longer true. To them, the police officer is not a friend, but a determined foe. Among a number of radical organizations, the Black Panther Party has taken this position. Its New York branch is led by Juden Ford. He calls the police pigs.
They are dirty, they're filthy, they wallow in the mud of hypocrisy and oppression. They wallow in the mud of death and murder. They wallow in the mud of taking people's lives because they simply want to live. They are pigs.
Such virulent attacks by militants make life unpleasant for the patrolmen on the beat, especially a beat like Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant ghetto, where the Black Panthers and police have attacked each other openly. The radicals speak for only a small segment of the larger community. A recent CBS News survey shows that fewer than 10% of Negroes interviewed approve of militant policies. In Los Angeles, where some residents of Watts accused the police of brutality during last month's disorders, another group staged a meeting to praise the police.
If any of you people, if you had your community continuously torn apart by people who couldn't care less, they have one thing in mind, and that's to destroy, would you feel that there were too many police officers? I think people that are living there, everybody seems to speak for the people in Watts. Well, I've lived there 25 years, and I've never had any problems with the police. I find that police are just like other people. They will respect you if you respect yourself.
A few attack the militants in stronger terms.
These people are not really representing a minority community or a Negro community. They're representing the Communist Party of Russia and Beiping. That's what they're doing. And these people are inciting them to start riots and insurrections to tear down this country.
We go into death knowing that we are serving our people, because as Chairman Mao says, to die for an individual cause or for nothing, you will be forgotten, it will be of no consequence. But to die for the people is the greatest thing.
You sympathize pretty much with Chairman Mao's beliefs?
Well, it's not a matter of being sympathetic. It's a matter of studying his political works and using what is good and what is applicable in the present situation.
Tactics.
Tactics and political philosophy.
By the nature of his job, a policeman comes in daily contact with all kinds of people in trouble with the law. Derelicts, degenerates, drug addicts, delinquents, and an occasional killer. The kinds of people he cannot respect. But the policeman wants the respect of law-abiding citizens, for whom he may be called upon to risk his life. Studies show that most policemen are restrained in making arrests, that they overlook most minor infractions in the interests of preserving public order and public respect. Policemen, who have their own set of social values, have expressed their personal contempt for radical young peace demonstrators. Their aggressiveness in making arrests brings repeated charges of brutality, a charge police consistently deny.
They always scream police brutality. I can recite hundreds of incidents where they violate the law. They lay down in the streets. They picket where they're not supposed to. And as soon as we have to enforce the law, and as soon as we enforce the law, they scream police brutality. They try to draw the attention away from themselves. They're the ones that are violating the law.
Police complain that they should not be subjected to verbal abuse and provocation by demonstrators. But Ira Glasser of the New York Civil Liberties Union draws a distinction.
There's a difference between somebody saying something nasty to a policeman and a policeman who, after all, has the monopoly of force. He has a gun and a club and the backing of law. There's a difference between vilifying a policeman and a crowd of policemen wading in to an otherwise peaceful crowd and just indiscriminately chopping away at people like they were so much wheat. I mean, that had just happened several times this year, and it's inexcusable.
An insight into the psychological conflicts of the typical policeman is offered by the director of the National Emergency Civil Liberties Committee, Henry D. Severo.
One of the things that has happened is that our society does not pay police too terribly much for the kind of work they have to do. As a result, policemen tend to feel unloved, unwanted, unappreciated in our society. And one of the ways that they can get back at the society that doesn't reward them is by picking at some of the symbols of that society, such as middle-class peace demonstrators or demonstrating college students. At the same time, they feel that they have worked hard for the positions they now enjoy in society, and they see black people getting things through riots. I mean, that's how it's translated in their jargon, and they don't want to see that kind of thing happen, and they'd like to put the iron heel down and crush it.
The policeman's cry for heavier weapons and tougher tactics reflects a fear of being overwhelmed by angry, combative citizens, Negroes, students, anti-war protesters fighting for social change. But except for a relative handful of extremists, like the gang that ambushed the Cleveland police, most progressive militants realize that all-out declared war with the police is suicidal. In times of dramatic demonstrations and confrontations, it is the mark of the professional police officer who controls his own emotions under pressure, a distinction that is becoming more difficult. John Lawrence, CBS News, New York.
A federal judge in Texas today ordered a major diet pill manufacturer to destroy pills containing both thyroid and digitalis on grounds that the combination may be harmful or fatal to some patients. Restrictions also were ordered on the firm's diet pills containing either one of the two drugs. The decision against the Landfire Company of Dallas was the first of its kind. It could have a major impact on the diet pill industry, which uses thyroid and digitalis in many diet preparations. Prices closed mixed on the New York Stock Exchange today. Volume was 13 million shares. The exchange index rose 19 cents.
When a man is all man, a woman becomes all woman. Redwood by Aquavelva is all man.
To make a woman feel all woman.
Redwood is all man.
To make a woman feel all woman.
Redwood, the exciting new aftershave by Aquavelva. Try it.
I cut my smoking in half.
I quit smoking altogether.
I stopped smoking and I didn't gain weight.
People everywhere who want real help are breaking the cigarette habit with this medicated lozenge called Nicoban. Nicoban was developed by a doctor to help people cut down on smoking, often without gaining weight. Doctors have been recommending Nicoban for years to help satisfy tobacco hunger, help control appetite, too. For real help breaking the cigarette habit, try Nicoban. Nicoban sure beats smoking.
Red Cross Mercy flights to Biafra had to be suspended today because of heavy fighting near the two designated landing strips. Up to now, some food had been flown in at night for refugees who, according to some estimates, are dying of starvation at the rate of 6,000 a day. Nigerian forces have encircled the 5,000 square miles still held by the Biafrans. We have some film out of the Nigerian Civil War this evening about something brutal that happened 2 weeks ago. You will see two men killed. The first was an unarmed Igbo tribesman who had been captured by Nigerian troops and accused of being a Biafran soldier. What happened was filmed by a British television cameraman. CBS News correspondent Robert Shackney narrates.
The prisoner, an Igbo tribesman, was young, frightened, unarmed. He was questioned by his Nigerian captors and by foreign military advisors and newsmen.
Can you ask him if he's a Biafran soldier?
Are you a Biafran soldier? I'm not a Biafran soldier, but I can show you the place where they're there, but I'm not a Biafran soldier. And what do you know?
The prisoner was captured in an area where Biafran troops had been fighting. He says he was there looking for his parents, who had disappeared. He says in his own defense that he believes in one Nigeria, in effect that he opposes the Biafran secession.
What will happen to him now, Captain?
I'm going to take him to a rescue. It's a rebel, Biafran soldier.
But you're not going to kill him?
No, we don't kill him now.
You're going to interrogate him, are you not?
Yes, yes.
So you're not going to be killed. You're going to be okay. All right?
Yes.
You will be all right. They're not going to kill you, you see. They're going to just take you prisoner, and then they will feed you. Is that right, Captain? You'll give him food?
I give everything. I give it quiet. I have told you the whole thing. I'm not a Biafran soldier. But you are a Biafran before. I'm a civilian. But you are a Biafran. Yeah. Don't answer me here. You're a Biafran. Are you a Biafran? I've turned to one Nigeria.
The leader of the Nigerian troops is Lieutenant Macaulay Lamourde. He's clearly skeptical of the prisoner's protestation of innocence. But the captive repeats over and over that Biafrans have killed his brothers and perhaps his parents because they believed in one Nigeria. The arguments fall on deaf ears.
Just now. What are you waiting here for? You don't know what Biafra they do us. Give me the real right. Sit down. Listen. I'm not a Biafran soldier. I'm not a Biafran soldier. Are you not a Biafran soldier? Yes, I'm not a Biafran soldier. Is that so? I'm a civilian and I'm looking for my parents. Is that so? Biafrans have killed my parents. Biafrans? Yes, they have killed my parents because we have turned to one Nigeria. Hey, it's all right. Because we have turned to one Nigeria, they have killed my parents. Finish. Yes, sir. Huh? They have killed my parents.
The film of that shooting was shown in Britain and on some American television stations. It was also seen by Nigerian officials, or at least they heard of the incident. It angered them because Nigeria has been trying to convince the Biafrans that they would not be killed if they surrendered. Within a few days of the incident, Lieutenant Lamourde was arrested, court-martialed, and convicted. The division commander announced the penalty, death by a Nigerian firing squad, and foreign reporters were present to receive the word and witness the execution. Lamourde's commander said the lieutenant was guilty of murder and he had to pay for it. When you get pictures like that, there is always serious question in a responsible editor's mind. In general, good editors publish or broadcast such scenes only when they meet one of three conditions. They are instructive or preventive, as in the case of automobile accident pictures, for example, or when they are of overwhelming interest or drama, or finally when they bring home the nature of an almost inconceivable news story remote from most of our experience. It seemed to us that film fits condition 3. That's the news. This is Harry Reasoner for Walter Cronkite, who will return on Monday. Good night.
That is my position. Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Larry. Can you clarify?
Larry, what is it?
I only have one.
One what?
Cavity.
Mr. Mayor, is that a significant improvement?
Very.
What do you attribute it to, Mr. Mayor?
Well,
Dad, Mom changed the crest, remember?
That's right. Crest.
Can you substantiate that, sir?
Put it this way. We've tried a lot of toothpaste, but Crest, best checkup ever.
Sir, do they all have stannous fluoride?
Well, let's set the record straight. Crest is the only one of the 5 front runners with stannous fluoride, and you can't buy a better cavity fighter.
The other 4, are they recognized by the American Dental Association?
No, only Crest.
Larry, which Crest flavor do you prefer, regular or mint? Both.
A real politician, this one.
Have checkups, watch treats, and brush after eating with Crest.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Harry Reasoner substituting for Walter Cronkite. CBS reports.